Hello, Principals and Big Guy. I want to make this video of what I'm going to cover in tomorrow's Zoom session, and just to make sure we're all on the same page, because a lot of this in the end is going to fall back to you, the principals, to explain to your staff. And frankly, some of it's going to be new information for them. So right now, I have a script in front of me, which I probably won't read tomorrow. I'll just have some notes to help guide me. But I'm going to kind of read my script or go through it with you guys. Again, it won't look like this tomorrow, but it will look like something similar. All right, so good morning. First, I want to take a moment to say how appreciative I am of you for the work you're doing. While making plans and decisions that impact our students and teachers, we've attempted to honor you as a professional educator while ensuring that the needs of our students have been met. To be frank, my biggest concern, me, David Mindshine, is that you and your family are safe and you're well. Secondly, I want to keep our instructional staff working throughout this crisis so you can support your family. And of course, we also want to accomplish our primary job and role as educators, and that is to teach children. There have been thousands of contacts made since we've begun NTI a little over a week and a half ago. There's been over 200 packets delivered to homes, and over 10,000 meals will have been delivered today just in this week alone. A little over 2 weeks ago, you were tasked with preparing a couple of weeks of instruction, to ensure, and the words we used was continuity of learning as we began to use our NTI days. And again, you've done an outstanding job. But with that being said, as we continue on this journey, the continuity of instruction is going to be difficult, and it will diminish over time. Yeah. Times have changed. This is a crisis indeed. K-Prep has been canceled. Our mode of instructional delivery has changed. Our method of assessments has changed. Our pacing guides have changed, and we're having to shift our expectations to account for all of our students, not just those that have two parents at home with digital access that have no problems understanding the content that's being pushed to them. As such, I want to give you some guidance. Some of it will be the first time that you've heard it here, and I want to talk about these things. I want to talk about teacher participation, student participation, grading, and return of the packets. So let's start with teacher participation. And first, we are going to continue on the course that we've been continuing on, and that's using the logs as our primary method of accounting for teacher participation during the NTI days. Those logs also serve as a way to track student interactions and thus student participation. So let's roll on right into student participation. At the end of each week, I know that your principals have shared, you have to send a weekly participation rate to your principal. So that's the way we're accounting for attendance. So at the end of the week, you're going to say that, 99 or 100% of my students were accounted for this week. And what that means, remember, KDE is holding us to contacting each student by some interaction. And that interaction was laid out by your principals, a minimum of one time per week. So one interaction per student per week with school staff. And that interaction can even be on a team or a grade level. That would count as weekly attendance for that student. And I know that's different, and that's hard to process when we're with students, at least an hour a day if you're at the high school, and more if you're at the elementary school, 5 days a week. But this is a different time. I want to talk about time for completion. Remember, at the onset of this, we said that at the end of NTI, when we return back to school, students would have 5 days to complete their assignments. I want you to reflect on that a little while, because that may not occur. We are not going to come back to school. Students are not going to have that 5 days with you to complete their work. So be mindful of that when you're creating your assignments. Be mindful of that you're going to need to reach out to some students by phone or some other method and help them complete their work. Now here's some new guidance. First, as you deem it necessary, you can introduce new content. Remember, NTI was originally designed for short-term durations where you could review and remediate, and that would suffice. We are way beyond anything that NTI was intended for. Second, as we move forward, I want every teacher to develop a minimum of one video or one interactive lesson per week. So if you don't know how to do that, it's okay. But I want you to get with your principals, and they're going to find some assistance for you in working with technology and using YouTube or whatever platform you want. There are dozens of platforms out there. If you need further guidance, again, contact your principal. But that is one interactive lesson or one video uploaded per week for students. Third, our guidance from KDE is to remind everyone to throttle back what you've been doing, and which is a common theme when districts start NTI. You guys have gone above and beyond. You've worked hard. You've given some great work. Now I'm telling you, I need you to throttle back. So as we move forward, if you're given 20 problems a day, give 10. If you're given 10, give 5. If you're wondering, if you're giving the appropriate level of work, you think you've throttled back enough, I want you to consult with your principal. So again, I want you to throttle back. If you have questions about how far you need to throttle back, then please talk with your principal. I want you to begin to alternate how you're doing assignments, between daily or multi-day or weekly assignments. Do that as you see fit, but don't feel that everything has to be a daily type assignment. Lastly, I want you to introduce project-based learning into your repertoire of NTI work. That will allow students to kind of take ownership of some of their learning, not just their work or doing their work, but take some ownership with their learning and begin to have them investigate the world around them. This is a very appropriate time to use project-based learning if you've never used it before. Lastly, I want to discuss two things, and that is the collection of packets. I know that students have been working hard. You've worked hard developing the packets. Again, I think we have 27 at the high school. There are 80 at the middle school and 175-ish at the elementary school. So it's roughly a third of the elementary and a third of the middle school. And then the high school has a much lower number, which I would have anticipated at the get-go. So here's me speaking to you honestly. I have erred on the side of caution of collecting paperwork back. And basically that's been because when we went to our first briefing with someone from the health department, we were told that the virus could live between 5 to 9 days on surfaces. Now you see that guidance has changed somewhat, but I do not want to take a chance of infecting you or your loved ones with any virus, flu, strep, or otherwise of someone that has boogers, snot, or phlegm on their work. So what are we going to do? We're going to begin collecting work next week, and we're going to store it and quarantine it for an appropriate amount of time. And then we will allow you to have access to that. But we will begin collecting work next week, and I'll give further guidance as that comes along, and your principal will give you guidance on when the packets will be available for you to review. Lastly, I want to talk about grades. I'm currently working with the principals to determine the best method for grading work and awarding grades at the end of the year. Remember, at this point, we're not talking about accuracy of work. We're talking about completion of the work, and these are strange times. I still want to honor what you're doing, but let me tell you where we're going to head. We are going to err on the side of the child as we move through this. And I want you to think about the term access and the access of an equal education to all students, not just, again, those that have access to parents who are sitting at home grinding through the work and who have access to Google Classroom, but those students who do not have that. So I don't have definitive guidance yet if we're, how we're going to scale our grading or how we're going to award grades at the end of this. But in the very near future, your principals will be giving you further information on that. This is a lot. If you have questions, I urge you to reach out to your principals. Once you've reached out to your principals, they can send me a list of questions that you may have. Thank you and have a good day. Go Bombers.